fucking Longlegs, man.
Longlegs. You know, I was trying to think of a way to sum up this movie, and it's just... Because that's basically all Longlegs does.
I've never seen an artsy-fartsy horror movie with its head so far up its own ass in my entire life.
Not what we were sold.
No, and like the difficult thing is everyone is just kind of blowing this movie right now, giving it super high praise.
Yeah, and I guess I kind of understand why, but I'm just looking past all that nonsense.
Yeah.
Down to the core of this movie, and it's meh. It's not great. It's not terrible, but it's not there's good ideas.
I didn't hate it. The concept, the plot was very interesting.
Yeah.
The execution, however, a little...
Yeah. Give me a break. And our titular character, Mr. Longlegs himself, who, you know, I wasn't expecting him to have a ton of screen time.
Neither was I. I figured it would be
in that
about
type
that
of role.
much. Yeah.
But then when they finally bring him in, you know, outside the opening scene, they finally bring him in, and it's just not what I was expecting.
I love Nicolas Cage. I'm a Nicolas Cage defender, you know? But this movie, basically the way he played the character was, if you were to take the scene in Face Off when he wakes up out of the coma and calls up his buddies. You take that performance and you mix it with his performance in Kick-Ass when he's burning to death. That is Longlegs.
Exactly. Just with about 10 pounds of latex on his face.
Yeah.
And they just white powdered him down real quick.
It reminded me of Escape from LA when he makes all those plastic surgery fuck-ups. That's what it looked like. Like a plastic surgery
like Botox gone
disaster.
Wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I didn't find him scary at all. He was just nuts.
Yeah. Annoyingly nuts. Like, there's no way that this person would go through life and just not be in jail. You know what I mean?
Right, like they're trying to figure out like who's doing these serial killings, and then he comes walking down the street like, it'd be like he did it.
No, he walks into the fucking hardware store and like he's like, that girl that works there is like, Dad, that fucking weirdo's back. You know, it didn't show us the scene where the dad comes out and just beats the shit out of him,
which would have been great.
Yeah. What the fuck?
Yeah, like that's the thing about serial killers. They blend into society really well. That's how they get away with this shit for decades.
Yes,
they're out there playing golf with the mayor. They're upstanding citizens. You know, like John Wayne Gacy.
I would have never assumed that he could have done that.
I would have 100% assumed that this guy would have killed people.
Yes.
Like he doesn't hide it at all.
Dude, it's like you know that he's got fucking heads in his basement. Yeah. There's just no way he doesn't.
Right. So before we really dive into his character, even though there's really not much, this movie kind of starts off like procedural. Like you think it's going to get into like, okay, here's our protagonist, FBI agent. She's a little shy. She's a little weird.
Yeah.
And now she's, well,
a little fucking weird.
A little weird.
We'll get into that.
Right. And there's something unique about her. We don't know what it is yet. And they hand her this case that's like been cold for 30 years because this guy just keeps killing. They don't know how he's doing it.
Right.
He never leaves any evidence.
He has a pattern though. They have, you know.
Yeah, they know it's like the same guy because he leaves these letters.
Yes.
The way her character's introduced, she has this like intuition.
Yes.
And it helps her figure stuff out as an FBI agent.
Well,
so
the FBI is kind of desperate. So
they're kind of desperate.
Oh, we'll put her on it, see what happens.
Yeah, so her boss, he brings her in and gives her all the information and tells her to take a look at it for a while. And she starts to dive into it, and she starts to unlock some of these clues. And then as soon as she starts doing that, Mr. Longlegs takes an interest in her.
I guess, yeah.
However, I don't even know how to explain that. He knows her.
Right.
Essentially. So, and you know, that's not too weird because you think a lot of these stories, like when there's like a high profile person going after like a high profile killer, they tend to look into it and then they interact with the person chasing them. Because it's kind of like a cat and mouse game, Zodiac, Seven, you know, that kind of stuff.
Well, and then as things go on, you slowly come to realize that she's connected somehow to Longlegs.
Of course.
Somehow, even though it's so fucking obvious.
Yeah. Okay, people are acting, at least some of the reviews that I've listened to, they're acting like these reveals in the movie are like jaw-dropping, like mind-blowing, like, oh my god, I didn't see that coming. It's like, how? How did you not see that coming?
And look, I'm not the kind of guy where I need like twists and turns in my movies. I don't need that.
I don't mind a good twist and turn here and there, but you tell a straight story too.
I'm totally cool with that. Not a problem. But the problem that this movie has, it tries to be like this esoteric, cerebral, arty serial killer procedure, you know? And so, like, normally a film like this, they'll kind of not necessarily spoon feed you the plot, they'll just convey things through visuals, and like you as the audience,
little subtext,
and you
as
the audience will kind of piece it together just from the visuals and the tone and the vibe of the movie, you know? This movie does have, tonally, it's
consistent.
It's consistent, yeah. Like it does have an atmosphere, you know. So, we'll get into the things that we like about it later. But at the end of the day, though, the story was just fucking stupid.
It was a promising story, though.
No. What I mean is like where they ended up going with it.
Oh, where it ended up was really stupid.
What I'm getting at is like it's trying to be this cerebral movie, but then at one point in the film you get this like almost like killer when the killer does the exposition dump. And it's like, what
and then they just spoon feed you everything.
Yeah, and it's narration accompanied by the visuals. And it's like, what?
Yeah.
So like the movie like pussied out on its own concept, you know? It promised you this like really interesting cerebral experience, but then you just got this like run-of-the-mill fucking exposition dump at the end.
Yeah. Once you find out that she has a connection to him, and they start to explore that, it shifts away from like, ooh, we're trying to figure out like how he's doing these killings, like he's never in the house, and like that's interesting.
Yes.
Like how she's gonna dive in and figure this out. But once she's connected to him, the story completely shifts to now it's like about her past and his past and their connection, and now it's not about like finding him anymore because she finds him like really easy. It's very convenient. And then they bring him in, they determine that he's gotta be working with an accomplice. And that's when they get into the whole like, he's a doll maker.
You stupid bitch, you filthy slut!
And he makes these dolls, and then you find out that he has an accomplice who then takes these dolls to chosen families' homes, and then the doll does something. Or he kills them through the doll, and you're like, okay, I'm kind of on board with this, but depends how you're gonna.
No, it's fascinating. But like the movie, again, it's weird that they chose to do that exposition dump, but then they left so many other things vague, and it's like, well, if you're gonna do that with the plot, why not just like come clean with everything, like how everything else works in the movie?
Yeah, no, they're very loose with their rules.
Yeah, no, but again, what is going on? What actually is going on is fascinating. Like it could have been cool. Had he stuck with that like cerebral storytelling. But yes, like it's
dude, I definitely want to talk about that. There's a moment in the movie where it diverges and it goes off the rails, where they could have done something entirely different, and it actually would have been like a really cool ending.
Yeah.
And it would have been like the same sequence, same beat, but just it would have been an altered perspective. Like instead of giving this exposition dump at the end where you find out exactly how the accomplice was doing everything the whole time, you could have just had the main character live through that experience with the accomplice and see it unfold. And she's piecing it together as we're going, and then she's like, oh shit, I have to stop this. And then it's too late.
Yeah, I mean, and like they even do these things in the movie with like she finds these Polaroids that like, and it like unlocks some things in her past.
Some memories.
Yeah, and so as lame as that might have been, but you could have used that as a device to like show
anything
what happened.
That's just telling us.
Yes, exactly. That's all I'm saying. And like, again, it's just like disguised as this arty fucking like, ooh, this is like a thinking man's horror movie, and then you get that shit.
And then they're like, oh my god, who's this accomplice gonna be? Who's the accomplice? Dude, the second she went to her mom's house, we were like,
that's fucking
it's her.
Crazy bitch!
She's the accomplice because she's a fucking nut job.
Yeah, like anyone who's just like a weirdo in this movie, it's like, well,
obviously
there's no like subverting. It's just like obvious, you know. And okay, she's connected to Longlegs. She's connected to the killer, and as the movie unfolds, you figure out how and why. But I'm sorry, as soon as the FBI realizes she's connected to him, she's fucking off the case.
You're done.
She's done.
Yeah.
But no, this movie, for some fucking reason, she gets to stay on the case.
Yeah.
Now,
because they didn't do their homework.
No, right. There are ways you can throw her off the case.
Or you
but
have her in the observation room or something, like just to keep her outside.
Right.
Like so you can still get her perspective. Well, but they put her in a room alone with him.
Oh my god, yeah. At one point in the film, she's in a room alone with him, And it's like, what? And then like he starts fucking killing himself, and like they don't jump in
after the fifth head slam, they finally come in like,
his own head in on a fucking steel, on a metal desk they have in there. He starts doing it, and he's taking his time in between hits. Yeah. And you would think after the first one, they just fucking rush in there and stop
You'd think they're waiting right outside the room.
Yeah,
the second he did that.
Knowing that there was a weird connection between her and him, you would think that they were like kind of on edge already about that.
Right.
So like there's all these like weird like plot inconsistencies that made it annoying on top of the way they told the story.
He has this little Hail Satan moment.
Hail Satan! Hail Satan!
Proceeds to smash his face in, and you're like, okay, I guess that's the end of him. And then it becomes about like, who's the accomplice? And it's like, well, who's left?
Yes.
Who else could it be?
There's a
psycho mom.
There's a supernatural component to this film, and like that is completely unexplained. Again, I don't need things spoon-fed to me.
It's underexplored.
Yeah,
it's half-baked.
But it's just because he's a Satan worshiper, that's what gives him powers. Like that's it.
Yeah.
Like that's all we have to work with.
That's it. And then so the first time she goes and sees her mom, the first thing her mom says to her, and she said it to her on the phone too, she's like, oh, have you been saying your prayers to keep the devil away? And she's like looking all crazy, and it's like, okay, this bitch is obviously involved and she's crazy. And the daughter responds like, no, I've never said my prayers. And the mom's like, yeah, because you're right, they don't fucking work. And I'm thinking like, how do you have a movie about like a serial killer with a slight supernatural angle that is like a Satan worshiper, but you don't have the other side of it?
Yes, exactly.
Like if she had like been saying her prayers every night, that would have lended to maybe why she was able to resist ultimately what she was under the spell of later in the movie.
It would have made the plot a little bit more interesting.
It would have made it more interesting because now you've got like at least the dichotomy there of these two battling sides.
Yeah, it's kind of like an Exorcist Believer, how they threw Catholicism out the window. Like, well, we can't have that. We can't have that.
Yeah,
we can't have God.
It becomes a circle jerk. It becomes like the coexist bumper sticker.
Yeah, exactly.
On film. Once Longlegs is gone, she goes to her mom's house to bring her in for questioning, and she goes there with another FBI agent. And,
by the way, first of all, she should be thrown off the case. She was in the room with him when he killed himself, and now she's just with this one agent by themselves. And they're going to her mom's house because they know the mom is connected. And then when they get there, they're like, well, how do you want to handle this? Well, I'm going to go in by myself, and you just stay and wait out here.
Okay, I'll wait out here.
And the partner's just like, yeah, okay,
way
cool.
to split up.
That's totally fine.
We didn't learn anything from the opening scene of the movie when you lost your first partner.
It just wouldn't, like, aside from like just like you don't do that with a partner, that wouldn't fucking happen because she's connected to the case. What the fuck?
Yeah. So then she's inside looking around, and that's when she discovers like the basement, like the man downstairs. He's been there the whole time, and you see the mom's outside with the shotgun and just kills
fucking
the agent,
blows the Asian chick's head off. Yeah.
And then she comes outside, and that's when you see that she's got a doll of the main character of Harker from when she was like 9 years old.
Yeah.
And then that's when the mom goes into the whole exposition dump of how she would dress as a nun.
Accompanied with fucking flashbacks.
Yeah, all flashbacks. She would take these dolls that looked like the daughter of the family she would target, and she'd go to the house, she'd drop the doll off, and the doll had a part of Longlegs, of his essence or something in the doll. They don't explain it, which allows him or the devil to like take over the family, and then the father starts killing everybody.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, and then they show like all these flashback sequences, and they're all done in like this arty way where they're not impactful.
Yeah.
Like it's all this square ratio, but like still crisp, but it's supposed to be like 16 millimeter, 8 millimeter looking, but it's like it still looks like modern.
The image is like fucking pristine.
Yeah, and it's kind of
like an IMAX frame image. Yeah.
This isn't making me like feel something.
Yeah.
Like this is just hokey. It's not like I'm watching Manhunter or like Silence of the Lambs or something where you like care about what's going on with the victims, and when you learn about the families, you're like, fuck, that's messed up. Yeah. This, like, I don't give a shit about any of the victims.
I think that one of the main reasons why we're so like, oh fuck this movie, and again, as we're talking all this shit, I didn't like hate it. It's not the worst thing I've ever seen. There are things about it that I like.
He's a competent filmmaker.
But
and it still like pulls you in terms of the style.
Yeah. But what's frustrating is again the marketing campaign behind it, and just everyone is like really blowing this movie, and I just fucking don't get it. Because like the camera movements, the pacing, it's all deliberate. Like, is that why? Like everyone's just like, oh man, it's a slow burn. So I wasn't bored, so I don't care. I don't mind slow burns. That's not the issue. Like people are gonna be watching this like, oh, just watch a fucking Blumhouse movie, you fucking idiots. You know what I mean? No, I don't need to see.
Yeah, maybe they should have given this to James Wan.
Mean, I don't need to see the jump scare shit. Like I don't need that. I do like the cerebral horror movie.
Those are usually the better horror movies, the ones that get in your mind.
Yes, exactly. But this
didn't get in our minds.
This one was just so. I mean, it really is like style over substance, and like the style. We'll get into that, I guess, right now. This fucking guy never shot anything more than like a 24mm lens. Just every single shot is super wide. Everything is just so like center frame,
static with a very mild pan on it.
Yes.
You know, he went to the John Carpenter School of Filmmaking. It kind of reminded me of It Follows a little bit, which also, you know, took from that as well, like very Carpenter-esque.
Yeah, and same actress, obviously.
Which I don't mind that, but it does get overplayed. It does get overused a bit.
It got annoying. It was like so fucking pretentious, you know, like what they did with it. There were a couple of Steadicam shots in there that were cool, like in the very beginning when she goes into that house after her partner gets shot, and like everything's all
and it's
tarped
like
and stuff.
Yeah, the camera's moving.
Yeah, I'm like, oh fuck, thank God that we got a Steadicam shot. Nice. And they, you know, they do some cool things, and like again, the vibe is there.
Yeah.
The director, Anthony Perkins' son, he knows what he's doing. Like he, you know, like there's some promise there.
Yeah, no, dude, there are effective scenes in this movie. Like when she goes home and she's at the cabin in the woods.
That's the best scene in the movie.
It's a really good scene at building tension.
Yeah.
Because you know, like something's out there.
Yes.
And they keep showing, like the framing was where she's like at her computer and like it's all that negative space with the kitchen in the background.
You're constantly just about
like
that negative
you keep
space.
looking over at it like something's gonna be there, but then you look back at her, then you look over it again, and
and then the sound design, you hear some weird shit.
You hear some like creak in the background. She looks over, but you never see anything in the kitchen. That's like really good tension building. And then when you find out, like he knocks on the door, and then he's like, you see him in the house, like she runs in with the gun, like that whole sequence was good. Yeah. And then we don't really get more of that.
It lended to the whole cat and mouse aspect of like a serial killer.
And that's what I thought we were going to get more of.
Yeah, I wanted to see like an arty version of a serial killer procedural. Yeah. And it starts out that way. Yeah. Even though I didn't even like the way the movie fucking started. Like it lost me once the opening credits.
I didn't mind that.
That bothered me.
I kind of like the 70s retro look.
I don't like. So you have a movie like Seven, and we're probably going to talk a lot more about Seven as this review goes on, because that movie does everything right.
Yeah.
But that movie, it's got a pop song for its opening title, but that's like song is like fucking grungy and gross, and like it fits the movie, you know?
Yeah.
This was just like this like out of place fucking 70s rock song, and I was like, oh god, this is like,
because it starts in the 70s, but the movie doesn't take place in the 70s.
Yeah,
and it takes place in the 90s.
Yeah, and you see your first glimpse of Nicolas Cage, and they hard cut straight to the credits.
And that's like the creepiest he is in the entire movie.
I didn't even think he was. I didn't like that. I mean,
because you only see it's like framed from like his waist just up to his nose, and like as a little girl, she turns and this guy's like, and it's like, okay. I mean, it kind of threw me off at first, and I was like, okay, where are we going to go with this? Now, this is maybe just how he is around his victims. But no, that's just how he is all the time.
Yes.
That doesn't work.
Yeah.
You can't have him like that. Could you imagine if Hannibal Lecter just walking around with like skin hanging out of his mouth all day? Like, no. He's like a respected psychologist.
It's like it's the equivalent of the Joker just going out in public wearing his makeup. Like that's what it is.
And then expecting people to like take him seriously.
Yeah, exactly.
Or not treat him like a criminal. Very weird. Speaking of characters in the movie, the best character in the movie was Blair Underwood.
Blair Underwood is fucking awesome.
He's he's her boss.
Yeah, he's great. It's like super underrated actor, and it's good seeing him in this movie.
It's a very subtle role.
Yes.
But he brings a lot of nuance to it.
He does. He's very, very good.
He's really good in it. And you're with him. Like, no matter what he's doing, what he's saying, like, you're like, okay, yeah.
Well, the only time he kind of loses you is when, like, he's makes the connection that there's a connection between her and Longlegs, and he's not like, yeah, you're off the fucking case.
Yeah, he should have pulled her. But
Yeah,
then,
but that's not his fault as an actor. That's the script.
Right.
But he's very good, like you said, nuanced performance.
Yeah.
He makes the guy really interesting, even though it's just like on the page, it's a straightforward character.
Very straightforward character, but you still get a sense of personality from the guy.
Exactly. He had personality.
He had personality.
Right. So
like where our lead,
Micah Monroe,
also not the actor's fault.
No.
It's the writing.
Yeah.
She's extremely one-dimensional.
She's a fucking weirdo.
She's a robot.
Yeah.
She's a weirdo robot.
Yeah.
And as the movie goes on and they unlock her past, and you learn that like she's been under the influence of her own doll this whole time, but you don't really understand like in what way, because once that doll's destroyed and the fucking stupid like Exorcist believer Black Mist comes out,
she's the same person.
She's still the same.
Yeah.
Like what was that doll doing to her?
Yeah. Well,
Because she was still on the case, chasing after this guy. This is where it could have been so interesting, where she could have woken up and been an entirely different person.
Yeah, exactly.
And would have been like, oh shit, like that's why she was like in this
trance the whole time.
trance
Yeah.
the whole movie. That was one of the first notes I made when I was watching this. It's like she's in a daze.
Yeah.
And now you can explain like, okay, then maybe because she was under the influence of this Longlegs doll. But then she's exactly the same, and then it plays out where
No, that'd have been cool. Like if at the end it's like she snaps into like who she really is.
Yeah,
and
it would
like,
have been interesting.
Yeah,
Because she hasn't been like anything different since she was 9 years old.
There was a scene that made the audience like audibly laugh in the theater last night.
Yeah.
Blair Underwood wants her to meet his family because it's like a thing on the force where your partner or
yeah,
whatever,
the
you introduce
daughter,
him to the family.
Ruby.
So they go to his family's house. And she's fucking weird when she's being introduced to the family.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way the family wouldn't be like, she's fucking weird. Like, throw her out, get her out of here. But
Yeah, no,
they let
go
her in.
go sit with our daughter.
Yeah, go sit with our daughter. The daughter asks her some questions. She gives these very weird answers.
Yeah.
And then the daughter's like, you want to see my room? And she's like, yes. And then it just does a cut, and then she's just like
Just sitting on the
fucking
bed
like a weirdo sitting in a room. And it was funny as hell.
Yeah.
And the audience laughed. And I don't think you were supposed to laugh at that.
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah.
And there were a few chuckles around the room when Longlegs was giving his little monologue before he smashed his head in.
Oh yeah, that, and also when he's in the car by himself and he's just like,
Yeah. we were, Mommy, Daddy. Like, yeah, we were just like, what is this?
yeah, that's Nicolas Cage
Like,
from fucking Kick-Ass when he's dying.
He's not scary.
Yeah.
This is not like a performance for the ages. Like, I love Nicolas Cage.
And I love unhinged Nicolas Cage. It's
Yeah.
awesome.
I would have preferred if they had just not given him any makeup or prosthetics.
Yeah.
And just made him kind of look a little off. He's already a weird looking guy. So it's not like you have to do much, especially at his age.
With his hair, like
They could have given him the stringy hair.
He would have looked like old Cameron Poe from Con Air.
Yeah,
Like
yes, he would have
what
looked like
happened
old
to
Cameron
Cameron
Poe.
Poe. This is who he became. He became Longlegs.
Yeah, it plays out now where even though Longlegs is dead, the mom is still like, well, no, I have to keep doing this.
Yeah,
And you're
to
kind
keep
of like,
Satan at bay from taking my daughter.
But you just blew the head off her doll, so aren't we good now? Apparently not. So she takes a new doll to Blair Underwood's family. And then we have that shitty ending where she goes to the house now that she's awoken from her whatever.
Well, and at this point in the film, she knows exactly what happens.
She knows what's going to happen because her mom explained the whole thing.
Yes.
So all she has to do is walk in there, gun out, and be like, get away from the fucking doll.
Yes.
Blow that thing's head off, and we're done. Instead, she stands there like, while she watches Blair Underwood take his wife into the kitchen.
Yeah.
You hear her get stabbed off
She's
camera.
letting it happen.
She just lets it happen while the mom's like, it's already you just have to let it happen.
Too late.
And then he comes out all bloody, and then he's gonna go for the daughter, and then she shoots him, and then she shoots the mom. Wrong order. What was that? And then of course she's trying to shoot the doll. It's just the gun's just clicking, and then it just ends. It's like, fuck you. Like.
Yeah.
Fuck you. Like, you could, like, why is everyone making horrible decisions now?
Yeah.
What is this? And then that goes back to when, like, instead of the mom having that whole exposition dump, the mom could have been like, oh, yes, like, she could have shown her the doll, and you would have been confused as the audience, and she would have been confused, like, wait, what is this doll about?
Yeah.
And she would be like, come with me, I'll show you. And then she puts on her nun outfit, And then they go to Blair Underwood's house,
Yeah.
and she's got the box in the back, and she pulls the doll out, and then she's like piecing this together now the whole time, like, oh shit, like there's some kind of demonic possession going on here. And then you see that scene unfold, and she doesn't know immediately that she has to stop it.
It would have
played out so much better.
Played out with
The tension would have been so much better.
The tension would have been there, and that would have gone with the whole cerebral horror.
Yes,
like the
it would have
show
worked.
don't tell. It would have fit with the tone and the vibe of the movie.
Yeah, I would have been okay with that ending then.
I would have been okay with it too. It would have still had some loose ends, but it doesn't matter because you didn't have that stupid fucking exposition flashback dump.
Yeah.
Where again, it's like, well, if you're gonna explain that, then why don't you just explain this shit too?
Yeah.
You can't leave this stuff
They
fucking...
go into like explicit detail with that, but then they leave. Oh, what's this ball inside his doll's head that has something inside of it that's controlled with the demon? What?
Yes.
Like, you're just gonna drop that nugget?
Yeah.
But then explain all this other shit? It's like, well, you got to be consistent. Like, be cerebral. Let the audience work it out. Leave it open-ended. Fine.
The plot itself, though, if you just kind of break it down, put it all on paper, like it is an interesting, fascinating plot. They could have told it visually better than the way that they did it.
Yeah.
Why do you guys like this movie?
I don't know. What are we missing? Like,
Yeah, I really-
the people are calling this like as good as Silence of the Lambs.
No,
and
they're
it's
saying
like,
it's the Silence of the Lambs of this generation.
Oh,
no,
is
it's
it?
not.
No one's
Fuck
gonna
off.
fucking remember this movie in 3
Yeah.
months.
I swear, like we talked about this before we rolled. I didn't think about this movie once today.
No, we saw it last night. We talked about it in the parking lot for like a fucking hour because we
Yeah.
were just amped up about it.
Yeah.
And then all day today, I didn't think about this movie at all.
Well, when we were watching it, I was thinking to myself, "Oh fuck! Like, is Bobby liking this? Is like this maybe the first time where we're just like so far off?"
Yeah.
And then the credits rolled. And it's got fucking
Of course,
backwards
the credits roll backwards.
Yeah, like
okay, 7.
yeah, it's like like wannabe 7. Like
Yeah.
fuck you. You know what I mean? It's pretentious bullshit. Anyways, that started rolling. We laughed, and then you just started going in on it. I was like, "Oh, thank God, I'm not the only one."
Oh yeah, I turned to you. Like, what the fuck was that? And you were like, oh, okay, good.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, because like there were things that were good about it. When they go to the barn, they got their flashlights
It's
out.
like 7. Like every single scene in 7 is fucking dark. They got their flashlights out. There's no such thing as a light switch in that movie.
Exactly.
It,
But
it was like that.
this, like they're in a dark, deserted barn, and they're you don't know what they're gonna find.
Yeah. Again,
And
it's,
that's interesting.
It's the procedural aspect of
Yes,
the film. That's
yes.
all the interesting stuff.
Yes, that's
you know?
what works well.
Yes.
When she's actually like figuring shit out.
Yeah.
And then you're wondering like, okay, is this supernatural or maybe it's not? Like, is it going to go like the True Detective route,
Right.
where you're thinking like, okay, maybe this is going to go supernatural.
Yeah.
But then it doesn't.
No, it doesn't. But in that show, there's some cerebral stuff in that show.
yeah.
And like, there is some like weird imagery in that show, but it's all because Russ Cole's
Right, it's all about
brain
what's
is
going
fried
on in
because
his
of
head.
drugs and shit.
Yeah.
And so, but you get that practical explanation as to why you're seeing these weird images. That show is exactly what this movie should have been. In terms
Yeah.
of like
just a tighter, shorter story.
tighter, shorter story. It's about like a satanic cult. Kids are involved. It's like fucking weird.
Yeah, dude, I was thinking, going into this movie, I was thinking like, okay, I'm in store for like another Manhunter, like something where I'm
Yeah.
gonna have to see like dead families, dead children, and they're going through these crime scenes, and like I didn't give a shit at all. Like
Well, that's
they,
the other
they
thing.
didn't make me care.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing. We're hearing that this movie's like, all the gorehounds are going to be happy.
For
No,
what?
Not really. No. Fuck no. Yeah, it's violent in a couple spots, and I'm not saying like, oh, I'm
nothing
mad.
memorable.
There was no gore, therefore I'm mad. I don't care. Like I was just being sold that like there's some good gory stuff in this movie. No, not really. No.
For me, ranking wise, there was enough in it. Like, it's a competently made film in a lot of ways. It's lacking in execution and story. So I went 5 out of 10.
Okay, I went 5.5.
All right. We didn't really talk about this much at all, but on our other scale, our rainbow scale,
It just has the Netflix casting
it's
lineup.
got your the FBI is basically a DEI factory.
Yep.
And then it kind of rubbed me wrong a little bit. It's all about this like satanic killer and like the whole Hail Satan, and he's going into that, but they never really like give you the other side of it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like like the Exorcist route.
Yeah, you can't mention the God aspect of it.
Right.
you know?
God forbid the
God forbid God.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're gonna have like the 666, which they show in the movie, which he circles. It's like they're doing that type of devil.
The
horn
goat
devil,
satanic
right?
imagery.
It's like you're going to
yeah.
show that, but it's like, where's the other side of that?
Right.
It's one-sided, but it felt one-sided in a way that like they didn't want to touch one side of it because we don't need to touch on that. That's
Christian people tend to be conservatives.
yeah, exactly. we can't have people going around praying. That would not be a good look for our movie. So
they didn't even need to like get into it. Like they could have just said like she could have just been like, yeah, I pray sometimes, like maybe
that would have been
low-key
more
grappling with her
interesting.
faith,
That would have been more interesting because when you find out she's been under the influence of this doll this whole time,
right?
It would have been interesting if like, oh yeah, she has been praying this whole time, and that's kind of been like helping to ward off its power over her. Like,
can't do that.
No, we can't do that.
Yeah.
And that would have been more interesting. And not because I'm like, oh, I gotta have fucking religion. No.
Yeah.
It's just, it would have made the story more interesting.
It's another element of the story that could have just made it more robust.
Right. So, I don't know, for me, I went 2.
Yeah, I'll give it a 2.
Yeah.
That's about right. The casting was a little annoying. The only person that was not a DEI hire was Blair Underwood. That fucker earned whatever he did to get where he got. He
that
earned
dude's
it.
fantastic.
Yeah, he was great.
Yeah. But I don't know. I don't think it's worth seeing in theaters. I mean, if you really want to check it out, like just stream it.
I actually will say that it is worth seeing in theaters.
Okay.
And the reason why I say that, it's because we should be supporting these indie movies. We should be supporting original ideas. We should be doing that. As annoyed as I am by like the marketing, like kind of alluding to the fact that this is like a crazy movie and all that, that's fucking annoying. But
yeah.
Like it still was effective marketing, and like I do hope that it does suck people into going to see it in theater because I want it to make money. I want it to do well because I want to see more original films. Not every original movie that comes out is going to be a winner.
Like, it is an original idea and film, and I appreciate that aspect of it.
Yeah, so that's cool. Yeah. Go see it, but if you wait till Netflix or Amazon, whatever. Worth watching, but not the greatest thing. What's wrong with you guys?
It's worth a single watch.
Seriously, like if we're getting shit wrong, like what are we missing that you guys like so much about it?
Where did we go wrong? Please light us up in the comments on this one.
Yeah, I feel like we're gonna get some shit for this one.
All right, maybe. We can give it back though.